Hi everyone, in this lecture we will talk about closures in Python. So closures are just like inner functions or nested functions, but whenever the outer function returns the inner function instead of calling it, then the inner function is called a closure function. So in this case, here as you can see, we have an inner function, but currently this function is called an inner function or a nested function or an enclosed function because we are calling this function and then we are returning it. So we are not directly returning it. First of all, we are calling and then we are returning. So here is a difference between returning the function directly or calling the function and then returning the function. So if you remove these rounded brackets, now we are returning this enclosed function, and this time it will be called as closure function. So let's discuss closure functions in detail. So here I have created a new Python file with the name closures.py, and let's create here a simple function and I'll name it message and msg. So this function is going to accept an argument, and now inside this function let's define an inner function. So def, and I'll say closure. So this is going to be our closure function, and this closure function will print the message simply. So just write here msg. Let's save it. And now instead of calling this closure function in this outer function, I'll return this closure function in order to tell the Python interpreter that treat this function as a closure function. So just write here return and then closure. Do not put these rounded brackets. So if you remember, in the previous lecture I have told you that you need to put these rounded brackets, but in this case, because we are telling the Python interpreter to treat this function as a closure function, so you don't need to put these rounded brackets. Otherwise the Python interpreter will call this function and then it will return it. So outside this message function, I'll say message, and now you are not going to see anything. So just write here hello, and just copy this name. I have misspelled message, so let's paste it. Let's save it and let's run Python file, and we got nothing because currently instead of calling this function we are returning it. So we need to accept this function in a variable, and I'll name it ref is equals to. So basically this ref is just a reference to this closure function. And now if I call this ref, you will see your required output, and we got hello. So I hope that you have got an idea of how closure function works, and I know that for the first time this might be confusing to you, but don't worry. As you practice these closure functions, you will automatically understand what is happening behind the spotlight. And now one of the most important feature of this closure function is that it remembers all the values even if the outer function does not exist. So here in this case, as you can see, we are calling this message function, which is our outer function right here, and our outer function will stop its execution after this step, but we are getting our print message because of this line, which is after the execution of our outer function. And the reason is that the closure function remembers all the values even if the execution of the outer function ends. So in order to understand this concept, let me debug it. So you need to focus on this local variable space. Okay, so first of all, Python will read this line number 1, it will jump to line number 7, and here as you can see that our message variable got its value, which is hello. And now let's click on this next step, and let's click on this next, and as you can see our variable has gone from our local space. But just notice the magic of this closure function. So if I again click on it, boom, we got our message variable again, and its value is hello, and we got hello. So this is how this closure functions remembers all the values. So for example, if I define here some other values like a is equals to 10, b is equals to 20, and let's print a and then print b. Okay, so I have defined these variables in the outer function, but we will still get them even after this function ends its execution. So let's debug it again. Okay, so we got our a, b, and message variable, and then we are returning this closure function, and our variables has gone. But let's click on this, and we got hello, 10, and 20 because this closure function still remembers all these variables. And in the next lecture, we are going to solve some problems regarding closure functions, and I'll see you there. Bye bye.